As the 2024 United Nations General Debate came to a close, it seemed like Africa had finally found its voice, loud, sharp, and defiant. But let's be real. Will anything actually change? After all the speeches, the fiery rhetoric, and the demand for justice, will the West listen? Or will this year's bold proclamations be just another performance in the endless cycle of exploitation? Here's where things get complicated. African leaders stood at that podium and demanded more respect, more equity, and more reparations. But what happens next? After years of similar demands, what concrete steps have been taken? The truth is, despite their impassioned speeches, many of these same leaders will return to their home countries, shake hands with Western diplomats, and sign the same exploitative deals that continue to keep Africa on its knees. That's the painful irony. Will those leaders still have the courage to stand up once the cameras are gone and the pressure from the West returns? Without having a single seat in the UN, it was even said that most African leaders were paid to come vote for their issue.
Why are we still going to the United Nations as Africans? That is a useless entity. It's not for us. The largest voting bloc in the United Nations are the African nations. We don't have a seat on the table. Why do we go there? We go to the United Nations to vote on their issues. They pay African countries, vote with us on this issue, vote with us on this issue. We have no business going to the United Nations, period. We need to tell Secretary Guterres, thank you very much, but we're no longer going to attend United Nations. It's not our entity. Until we have true representation, goodbye. I mean, it's true with every engagement with the West. For example, Zimbabwe and many other African countries, the remains of our ancestors who they murdered are still sitting in jars in their countries. Why are we going to engage them? We want those remains returned with repercussions. Until that's happened, everybody from your country, out. If you were former Portuguese colony, all Portuguese, get out of my country. I love it remember when there was this rift between President Mugabe and Prime Minister Tony Blair. And Blair was like, we're coming to take all the British out of Zimbabwe, we're airlifting them. And the response to President Mugabe was, listen, I've given all my police and military that if you see any British citizen that wants to get out, escort them to the nearest exit point. Get out. If we can just make that position, your government is abusing us. Your government is refusing to give us back our ancestors, the remains of our ancestors who they murdered. Your government is refusing to give us back our artifacts, precious artifacts, priceless, that they stole. Until these wrongs, these blatant wrongs are righted, every British citizen get out. Every Portuguese citizen get out. Every German citizen get out. Let's see how quickly things will change.
Move from there.
It is those citizens who are going to now go to their government and say, we didn't know you were doing that. Let me make this point clear. The citizens do not know of the crimes that are being committed by their governments. So let's put the power back to the people. Let's remind the people that every constitution starts with we, the people. So let's make those citizens, they must succeed in their civic duties. We, the people, are the ones who are failing. Let's come together. Let's understand the issues. And so for those of us who are elders, who are in the know, we have a responsibility to educate and inform. Once the citizens are empowered with knowledge and the understanding of what is really going on, I do know for a fact, the average citizen of the world wants a righteous world, a world that is free of hate, racism.
Let's not forget the global stage.
Your father knows about saving money. Everything I'm wearing, I've had since boot camp.
Leaders like Cyril Ramaphosa, William Ruto, and Bola Tinubu spoke with boldness. Ramaphosa called for reparations, urging the West to acknowledge its role in the destruction of Africa's resources and the exploitation of its people. Tinubu, in his fiery speech, demanded the right for Africans to manage their own resources, free from Western interference. It all sounds revolutionary, doesn't it? But how long will it take before those same leaders return home and continue to engage in the very deals that perpetuate Africa's dependency? Take Zimbabwe's Emerson Mnangagwa. His condemnation of sanctions placed on his country drew applause. But do Western nations even care about his outcry? Sanctions have been in place for years, crippling Zimbabwe's economy, and yet nothing has changed. Is it naive to think that this year's debate will somehow move the needle? Isn't it time we ask, are these speeches genuine attempts to create change, or are they part of a recurring performance that Africa's leaders put on for the global stage? When the spotlight fades, will these same leaders remain steadfast in their resolve, or will they bow under the pressure of the very Western nations they've just denounced? Can Ramaphosa's push for reparations ever materialize in a world where the West is unwilling to even acknowledge its past crimes? Can Tinubu's call for Africa to control its own resources compete with the ongoing exploitation that is deeply rooted in colonial legacies? More critically, is the West even interested in what these leaders are saying? History tells us no. The West has never been keen on acknowledging its complicity in Africa's struggles. So, the real question is, what will happen when the cameras are off and it's time for these leaders to stand by their convictions? Will Africa remain defiant, or will it once again fall into the same traps of dependency, exploitation, and broken promises? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, is it possible that even as these leaders talk about change, they've already accepted that nothing will truly shift? Are they just as trapped in the web of exploitation as the rest of the continent? In the end, the world moves on. The powerful remain powerful, and Africa remains exploited. The leaders return home, the headlines fade, and the West continues its exploitation. But how long can this continue before Africa's frustration boils over? How long before these speeches turn into action, or worse, revolt? What of those African leaders who didn't even show up? Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, for one, was notably absent. While others are scrambling around international forums, is quietly but steadily focusing on the development of his nation, Burkina Faso. Unlike those spending their time making grand speeches and seeking external validation, Traoré's leadership has inspired action and trust, not just within the country, but also in the diaspora. Between June and September 2024, Burkinabés and other Africans in the diaspora raised a remarkable 22.5 million CFA francs to contribute to their homeland's development. This is no small feat, considering it's the first time such a collective effort has been made since the era of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader, who was silenced in a French-backed coup in 2008-1987. This act of solidarity from Burkinabés in the U.S. and elsewhere highlights something we rarely see in today's Africa: diasporic unity spurred by the belief that their country is finally in capable hands. Isn't it curious? While many African leaders fly around making the same tired demands at the UN, pleading for the West to help, Traoré quietly works, knowing that true change doesn't come from begging, but from action. His government has inspired enough confidence that people are willing to send their hard-earned money home because they believe in the progress that's happening on the ground. What does this tell us about leadership? When was the last time you heard of a diaspora group coming together in such a significant way to support their nation? Can we even name another African leader who has managed to unite their people this way? But it doesn't stop there. Burkina Faso's national airline, Air Burkina, which had been grounded since April due to financial constraints, has just acquired a brand new aircraft, the high-performance E-170. This is not just any acquisition, it's a symbolic win. Purchased outright from a Chinese operator, this marks a departure from the previous leasing arrangements that drained resources. And while other African countries are still beholden to Western-controlled financial institutions or dependency on foreign investors, Burkina Faso is showing that with the right leadership, ownership is possible. Burkina Faso's national
to the museums where they are now because there are laws, and if even for the artifacts which were looted in the 19th century, the war, there was laws, and the looting of war was legal.
Hello everybody, welcome once again to our channel. I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. Now, during the quest to colonize Africa, European countries engaged in different schemes. And one of them was capturing all artifacts that were there in Africa and taking them to their countries. Right now, if you check, you will find that most of the museums in Europe have artifacts that were stolen from Africa. And this is really disrespectful to the continent because some of the things that are held with high regard in Africa are being used in these European countries to gain money and to really boost their revenues. Yet in Africa, these things cannot really get back. This is a very, very serious question that has been asked by many people. I came across a clip here that has really made me ask myself a lot of questions together.
Yeah, the question put there by that art collector. These artifacts, who do they belong to?
They belong to the museums where they are now because there are laws, and if even for the artifacts which were looted in the 19th century, the war, there was laws, and the looting of war was legal. Maybe it's not moral, but it's legal. And if you want to come back on this, why don't you come back 19th century, 17th century, 16th century? You cannot stop. You don't know where to stop.
At the time, they weren't independent countries.
Yes.
So, of course, the colonial power can decide to take stuff. I mean, it is looting, isn't it?
No. It is looting, yes. Part of it was looting. But if you have read the report, I did read the report in English because I didn't get the French version. And the report says it's not only the war looting which must be returned, but everything. The scientific expeditions where they collected artifacts, they must give it back. The gifts from the colonial administration, you must give it back. Actually, you are going to give back to some countries, and they are not reclaiming it because it's only the Benin which reclaim the artifacts, not the other ones.
Only Benin is claiming it.
Yes,
and that raises the other question, which is a delicate one. You heard in that report,
yes,
the Beninois scholar there,
yes,
Ms. Zanzou,
yes, I know
saying, how do we get African kids to see their own artifacts?
Yes, you can do this. I think I milite for cooperation between French museums and Africa to organize exhibitions of art, African art. You can organize exhibitions permanently.
And how does that go? Because there's the question of
Yes.
The pieces when they travel around Africa. Does it go okay?
Yes, it's okay to send them to Africa, but they must return to the French museums where they belong.
So why is there this promise from Emmanuel Macron?
I don't know. You must ask him. But I think he was like a witch who doesn't know what he does, But because he says we are going to give it back, as if these artifacts it doesn't belong to anyone but the French museums. And it's very interesting because we saw an example in Senegal. I think it was a museum in Senegal. In Senegal, you have a museum, IFAN Museum, which has in its collections many works of art from many other countries from Africa, and it was a collection built during the colonial era. Are they going to give it back to the other countries, this museum in Senegal? I don't think so.
Many people watching this, maybe they don't know Africa very well, but they do know the Elgin marbles.
Yes.
that Greece has been asking from Britain.
Hold on, folks. I know the show will begin at 1 p.m. or probably 5 minutes after 1 p.m. because I want to end this video. But let me just make a comment here. Did you listen to, first of all, before I even come to that, right? I love this statement from Smith. He said, I can't stand hearing this delusional, and that's the word I want to use, right? This delusional conversation about artifacts that do not belong to the European. Now, did you hear what he's like the statement he made, right? He said in Africa, let's say in Senegal, there are other artifacts from other different countries in Africa. Are they going to take it back? I mean, you said those artifacts came from Africa, and it is in Africa. Senegal is in Africa. And you asking, are they going to take it back? First of all, those countries in Africa, right? They were not there when you were looting our artifact. Those countries were not dead. You created those countries. You created those borders. So as far as we are concerned, we do not count those countries. Those borders are colonial borders. So Africa did not go to Europe, or Senegal did not go to Europe to exploit European artifact and then take it to Senegal. Senegal is part of Africa, and Senegal have those artifacts. Senegal is in Africa, so those artifacts are in Africa. So this delusional white man here, this evil white man, this killer, okay, sat there and said those artifacts was taken from other African, in fact, other nation in Africa. They are in Senegal. Are they going to take it back? He's trying to defend what cannot be defended. How can you steal something from Africa? It is in France, and they need it back, and then you say another artifact in Africa will be returned back to Africa. It is already in Africa. How can it be returned back to Africa? You cannot defend what you did because there is nothing there to defend. But let's continue. There is a statement I want to make here, right? Let's continue. We will get to that statement because we have these. We will come to that.
Yes.
Since the last century. So what's the difference between Greece asking for its artifacts back and what's going on in Africa?
I do not see any difference. The report says it's not the same. The report says it's only about sub-Saharan Africa because they.
Now, do you see the reason why Africa? Look, we need to do nothing with Europe. Look, it is about time, right? We cut off everything from Europe. Did you see the question, right? Now, the Greeks asked for their artifact. It was given to them. Now, the question is asked, but it is the same way Africans are asking for their artifact. So the Greeks asked for it, you give it back to them, right? And it was looted, it was exploited, you exploited, you took it to your museum or whatsoever, right? You give it back to them. What is the difference when African asking for theirs? And he said it is not the same because it was said that Saharan Africa or African artifact will not be returned. So do you see these people make laws to protect them? That is the same way the United States put in a UN. Okay, whenever the United States go to other country to exploit, to carry war, to destabilize the area against other government, they use the term special military operation. It is only the United States can carry on special military operation along with Britain. These colonizers, do you see how they work together? Only the US and EU can carry on special military operation. Only them can go and invade other country. Only them can go and bomb other country and then call a special military operation because they put that clause in the UN so that the UN can protect them when they go and destabilize other country. That's the same thing they're doing here. That, oh no, it is different because it was said the law does not apply to Africa. Who made the law? The same colonizer, the same enslaver. Do you see the reason why we need to cut off away from these people? Look, there is nothing called globalization. There is nothing called globalist interests. These people are against Africans and against African interests. It is what it is, and we need to call it the way it is. And we should stop beating around things that, oh, the West, no matter what, we need to look. Before the West, how African live? Before enslavement, how did African live? How did we live before the West? Before colonization, how did African live? Before they start enslaving African, how did African live? So to come here and say, oh, the war is in the global stage, this cannot survive without this, and this cannot survive without this. What are we getting from Europe? What are we getting from the West? What are we getting from the US? Sanction, destabilization, exploitation, dehumanization, looking down on us. Those are the things that we are getting from them. So it is about time that we ask ourselves, before Africa came in contact with the West, how did we live?
They say 90% of art says it's not the same. The report says it's only about sub-Saharan Africa, because they say 90% of art is outside. This number, I don't know where it comes from, and even in the report, they say they don't know where it comes from. But even if it's true, we must help African countries to exhibit works of art. We must lend them to Africa. So there is no difference between Elgin marbles and this. There is no difference with anything. So all the artifacts which were taken in Greece must be returned, in Egypt must be returned, in Algeria must be returned. It's the beginning of something you don't know where it's going to go.
But if they were stolen?
No, they were not stolen. It was looting, yes, but there were laws.
So they were not stolen, but they were looting. So what is that to justify it? They were not stolen. No. They were not stolen, but they were looted. Africans and African leaders, and to the so-called journalists, and to the so-called or African who say they are revolutionary, but sometimes many of them don't understand what it stands for. Do you see these people, how they are so adamant in what they stand for and what they believe in? Do you see them? They don't even care. Look, they can sit on national media, right? And they speak how they want to speak, how they view us, how they think they are the best, and what is for them, it is for them. This is the same way, even currently, right? Let's forget about even the museum. Currently, even in Africa, our natural resources, this is the same way these people think it is for them. The same way they went there doing enslavement, they took advantage of us, and we agreed to them, we introduced them, we showed them our culture, our way of life, and then we went in prayer while their eyes were open and they took everything. It is the same way today. They are descending, they still feed that what their forefathers did. Okay, let you inherit it. It is the same way they don't care currently, even the resources on the African continent. They think it's for them. Look at what Abraham Traore is doing, taking back the resources, giving it back to the nation. But at the same time, the US, Europe, they are angry. Just last week, another assassination attempt against Abraham Traore. There's one nation. Do you know how many assassination attempts against this man? 4 foreigners were caught, along with female white. They were just spying, and that is why having foreign military in Africa, it is dangerous, because they are not there for our safety. They are there to spies and to take that African leader who will say no, to take that African leader who will not agree to their nonsense. And that is why we speak against Cote d'Ivoire, we speak against Benin. When the Malian, the Chadian, the Nigerian, the Burkinabes, when they decided that we do not want first military and foreign military, Africans and Benin, open arm to them. Where is that unity? Look at how the Europeans are united and they defend what you cannot even defend. They believe in what something that United is supposed to believe, that United is supposed to send out on national TV to defend. The horrible thing they did against Africans, they have no remorse. Do you see? It is about time we call it the way it's supposed to be. It is about time to disengage with the US, to disengage with Europe. It is time now. These people, they don't care the F about Africans. Let's call it the way it's supposed to be. They think you are inferior. During the 1600, they said you were inferior. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, even 24. They still feel or think, believe that you are inferior and they are superior. So anything they do, you cannot question them. You should not question them. Rather, they should question you. They should justify any ill in society. They should justify what is good and what is bad. Not you, an inferior being, cannot justify what is good and what is bad.
I don't get this distinction between looting and stealing.
No, it was stolen if you want, but in the 19th century, in the 18th century, in 17th century, during all the wars, art was stolen. So we must give back everything or nothing. And more of these works of art, when during all the wars, art.
Now, I want to make a point here, right? Let me make a point here. Now, the reason why this video is going, we don't really have a lot to discuss, all right? We just have basically 2 topics today. No article, just all video. But let me say this. The reason why I have some interest to discuss this, right? You know, it is the Africans who always look down upon themselves. It is the Africans who always look down upon themselves. They always look down what their forefather did, what their forefather left for them. It is the African who always look down on the African culture, on the African belief, on the everything about African. It is the African who look down on us. I can tell you right now, if you go to Africa right now, these artifacts, it is African who are traveled in the diaspora. It is African who are traveled to the West. Okay? They feel that they know more. So everything now on the African continent, it is bad. It is devil. Even I can tell you right now, if you enter an African house, okay, I will tell you about 80% of African in the diaspora will look down on African artifact, on African belief, on African things. They will say it is demonic. I will tell you this. They will tell you it is demonic, it is bad, it is devil, it is idol, worship things, whatsoever they call it. But here it is. The same people that told you what your forefather believed in is demon, is devil, is not right. Here it is. These people have it. They don't want to release it. These people cherish it. They cherish it. Well, why did they return the Greeks? The Greek artifact? Because they know the Greek artifact is fake. It was produced as a result. The Greek artifact is a photocopy from Africa. When the Greeks went to Africa, they saw it, they photocopied it. But then the original from Africa is what they have. But you, Negro P, will live for there and come and say, oh no, it's demonic. Oh, don't be that artifact. Oh, don't be it. But here it is. The same man I told you to look down. And that is what Malcolm X said. Who told you to hate yourself? Here it is. African artifact. These people have it. They don't want to release it because you know what? Look, these people are not just getting money from it, or it's not just in a museum and people go and see it. These people feed off it. They feed off it. And I will tell you this. Let me say this. I believe this is why these people say what they want to say, because they respect our ancestor, our forefather. They respect them. They honor them. That we can honor them. And that is why we keep going far away, far away, far away, far away. Meanwhile, they honor it. They respect it. And that is why things are being given unto them. Because our forefather think these people love us because we are not fighting. We are not fighting. It seems that we do not recognize them, because if we recognize them, we will fight for it. If we recognize them, we will stop these people. But now, our forefathers, they are frustrated of us because they feel that what they fought for, at some point of time, we just left it. Look at Ghana today. Look at what Nkrumah fought for. But look at Ghana today. Look at Nana Akufo-Addo. Do you think Nkrumah will be pleased with Nana Akufo-Addo, or with the current government, with the current leadership? Look at most African nations. These leaders, at the end of the day, they bring the West and give everything back to them. But here our artifact, our way of worship, these people get it. They don't want to release it. They release all our artifacts to other nations, to other European countries, because they know it's fake. Here is the real one. Look at the Pope. The Pope bowed down to Black Jesus. The Pope bowed down to Black Jesus. But here it is, the Pope will leave from there, the Vatican, go to Africa, and you see African bowing down to the Pope. Nonsense! The Pope in the Vatican bowed down to Black Jesus. But the Pope come among African, then we go bow down to the Pope. Aren't you saying something? It is about time now and start looking down on your African belief. Even when you see these marks in Africa dancing, it is the African who will say it's demonic, it's devil. It is the African who will say, what will they do for you? Is it bringing income? But the white man will travel from here and go to Benin, go to the rural part of Nigeria, just to go see these things, just to go see African performing. And they will be so happy because they know they can never be like that. But it is the African who will look down on those African beliefs, on those African practices. It is the same African who have traveled, who they feel now they gain Western knowledge. It is the African who have traveled, who are so adamant and bad and destroying their culture. They the one will put their more on African, but meanwhile the white men still going to Africa to see. Go to Benin, let the Benin festival reach, and go to Benin. Let the festival, let it just come up. Go to the airport and see white people just going, European just going to go and see these things. But here it is, they don't want to release it. You think it is, if this thing was demonic, these white people that told you it was demonic, they will have it? Why would they say it was demonic? It is not good. It is false worship. I don't know how to call it, false something worshiper, this false worshiper, false this. But they have it, they don't want to release it.
Was stolen. So we must get back everything or nothing. And more of this, these works of art, when they were taken, if they were not taken, they would have disappeared, because many of artifacts, African artifacts.
Did you see what they're trying to defend? If Europeans did not loot these things, they were going to vanish. Now, do you see, when someone read your history, how bad it can be than yourself writing it? Look at this idiot. So he's taking the history from the 1600s. These artifacts were there thousands of years, even before the 1600. Why did they disappear? Why did they vanish?
First are made of wood, and wood it was not made to be kept, you know, so it would have disappeared. They became works of art in museums because Europeans said it's art, you know. It's not from Africa. It was not art. It was meant to disappear.
Right. These artifacts would have disappeared in the past,
yes,
but don't anymore. That brings us to another question,
yes,
which is you talked about exhibiting more of these works in Africa.
Yes.
What do you do to help African countries to have proper museums that are with the proper funding so that they can keep things climate controlled and to preserve the works when they go over there? What needs to be done?
They need.
Now we're going to take this out by the way. So folks, let me say this. Most of these things, if we don't know, this is how our people communicated. You heard what a general asking, like when it comes to climate change and this and all of those things. Our forefathers did not just print these things because it was for fun. Some of them were based on communication. Most of these things you see, it is communicating. It is communicable. That is why our forefathers could tell, they could predict the weather. Most of these things you see, it's not just because they just went and sat there and just, made it and stuff. It was for a reason. It is for a reason. And these people 24/7, they are still learning from these things. But no, they see European, they see knucklehead or redneck will come and say Africa did nothing about civilization. Africa did not contribute to civilization. But look, folks, our civilization, the African civilization, is still in existence today. These people still learn from these things and they come by, they predict the weather, they fix other things, they tell other things. They are still learning from these things, but they will come back and say, Africa did not contribute to civilization. And you have some of our Negro P who knows nothing. They will still sit there and say, Africa did not really contribute to civilization. It is the European. No. What we are seeing today, it is the same civilization started by Africans and still going on by Africans. The knowledge is just being improved. But white men did not bring civilization to Africa. White men brought exploitation. European did not bring civilization. European brought exploitation, war, chaos, killing, looting, as you can see some of them over there. Ask yourself, before the 1600, how did we live? And after the 1600 up to now, what made Africa to be in poverty? Africa was not poor. Africa was feeding the world. So we should be asking ourselves, if Africa was feeding the world, if African did not go hungry, if African were making gold, because we were making gold before the European went to Africa, we were making gold. Didn't our kings and queens have gold? It was not European that discovered gold. It was African that discovered gold. And European even saw gold with African. They were confused. So how can we say European brought civilization or white men brought civilization? We were making iron, steel. How did we fix spear, cutlasses to make farm before the white men went there? So how did we make iron? How did we melt iron? We melted iron. How did we invent these things? So how can a white man come, learn from your culture, and then tell you we brought it? And we still take it to say the white man brought civilization. We have gold. How did we discover gold? It was the white man that came and discovered gold in the 1100, in the 1200, 1300, 1000 BC. It was the white men that came and discovered gold, because last time white man was not in Africa. White man was not there because black people had traveled to the world, to the west, with this gold, with this artifact, with this culture. So then, where the civilization came from the white man? When we use gold, we metal gold. We have gold chain. It was not a white man that brought a gold chain. It was the same African, our kings and queens had gold chain before these people went there. So these people did not carry civilization. They carry destruction.
Advice from people who know what is a museum, who know to build them. So we know this and we can help them to do this. And even in the report, they say that there are 500 museums in Africa. Maybe. So maybe there are already museums which
do you see how they never believe African report? He say, in fact, they say there are about 500 museums in Africa. Maybe. That's what they say. Do you see? When African get report, they don't believe it. But when they get report, it is it. They have the right to justify and not to justify. They have the right to judge and not to judge. They have the right to give figure and not to give figure. They have the right for the world to accept what is right and what is not right. But other people should not say, no, this is right. Other people should not say, no, this is wrong. Look, no matter what we do, let's call a spade a spade. The white man will never care. They never care, and they will never care about Africans and African people. They never care. Since the 1600s, they destroy you. Their aim is for you to stay there. Their aim is for you not to rise, no matter what. Their aim for you to still be inferior. If these people were actual human beings, if these people were human beings, but now they would have worked with Abraham Tuareg. Look, let me ask you, is Abraham Tuareg doing any bad thing? Let's be frank here. Is Abraham Tuareg killing his people? Is Abraham Tuareg being exploitative? Is Abraham Tuareg putting people in jail, killing, destroying people's lives? Absolutely not. But why are they against him? Why is the US, Europe, them, West, the West, why are they against this man? Why do they want to kill him? But other African leaders who are bad killing their people, who are destroying their people, who don't care for their people, they are not talking against those people. You don't see coup d'etat, you don't see proxy war. In fact, they want and die with those people. It is about time we Africans wake up. And this video is in line with what we are about to discuss today. Ladies and gentlemen, today's topic, it says, UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, the host Negro, using slavery and colonization to Russia and Ukraine war. This idiot, David Lammy, used slavery, enslavement of African people, colonization of African people, torturing of African people by US and EU, comparing that with the war in Ukraine. Comparing that with the war in Ukraine. He is saying the enslavement of African people by Europe and the West, by America and EU, is the same as what the Russians are going through. The Ukrainians are going through with Russia. David Lammy is saying colonization of the African continent, it is the same as what the Ukrainians are going through today. You see, it is always the black man, when he's been hired by his slave master, will always use the struggle of the black man to justify what the white man is going through. But the white man never in history will they use their struggle to justify what the black man is going through. Typical example, you watch what this idiot sitting here talking about here. He agreed that it was looted, but he said it was found that we looted it. He agreed that they stole it, but he said, yes, nothing wrong with stealing. But here it is, nothing wrong with stealing, nothing wrong with looting, but an Africans in France went peacefully to ask for this artifact. And it took that African to court by asking. He never went to loot it, he never went to steal it, but he went and asked that it should be returned. They took this man to the court. Before we get to David Lynn, let me watch a short video here. Before we get to David Lynn, let's watch a short video, and that will, go with the thesis. That will go with the thesis.
CNN, I was questioned after I spoke in 2007 about Barack Obama. And CNN said, well, what do you think about this young man? I said, I think he's brilliant. I think he has fresh ideas. But I'm under no illusion that even if he did become president, that he could change the reality of Black suffering in America. Because when you are running for something, you can say a lot of things. But when you sit in the seat and you feel the energy of electricity putting something on your backside, the forces that surround power is always the real power. President Obama does not run this country. President Obama has been chosen to govern white affairs. And if in that process we get something, it won't be because the governing powers want it. It will be because we organized and forced a government to speak to our needs.
How to get the most of Grammarly free.
It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you all about the
Now, look, thank you for the question. You know, I want it clearly said in love that I love my brother. I voted for him. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I was out there with my wife voting for our brother. I, like you, am very proud that a Black man sits in the White House.
Oh.
Yeah. But I also understand very clearly
Yeah.
And we should understand that it is the White House. And until we exercise power to force that house to address our agenda. Now remember, our dear sister Julianne Malvo mentioned A. Philip Randolph. Man, that was long time ago. And the cry was jobs and justice.
Yeah.
In the March on Washington in 1963, the cry was jobs and justice. In the 20-year anniversary of the March on Washington, the cry was jobs and justice. We are now in 2010. And what is the cry? Jobs and justice. Well, wait a minute. How long? President Obama does not run this country. President Obama has been chosen to govern white affairs.
You know what? I think this is the reality that many African and African Americans need to know. Let's watch this.
Are you going to sit around begging white people to do for us what we have the power to do for ourselves?
All right, we gotta go. But I use this video, right, to continue with what we started with by saying it is about time Black people, African people, we disengage with the West, with the Western world. No matter what we do, these people do not care about our agenda. It is about time we unite. Clear and simple. That's the only weapon the West fear of. That's the only weapon the colonizer, the enslaver are afraid of. That is why Pan-Africanism, it is the biggest weapon of the white man, of the European, of the colonizer, of the enslaver. That is why they never ever want to hear of Pan-African, because they know what it means. They know what Pan-African did in 1945. They know what Pan-African did in 1945 and on war, leading to the shared independence of Africa. They know what it did. So it is their biggest fear. And that is why, according to history, when they asked J.A. Hoover what would be the biggest threat to the U.S., he said Negro unity. And that is the Pan-African he was talking about. Negro unity will be the biggest threat of the U.S. That was J.A. Hoover's statement when they interviewed him. He never said threat of Muslim war or Arab war, because they made the Muslim people look like they are the fearful people in the war. And once you see beer with someone, then they say you're fearful. But the most fearful people are the people without beer. No, let me say this now. Muslim people are not just the dangerous people in the world. You know, the most dangerous people in the world are Christian. Now, sorry to my brothers and sisters who think that they are Christian, that's all to it, but it is the facts we need to say it here, right? Who is bumping Palestine today? That's Christian. Who are bumping Gaza? Christian. Who are creating proxy war around the world? Christian. Christian nation, believer, who said they are Christian. They are the one bumping. It is a Muslim bumping people around today. Let's be frank here. Christian because they hide themselves behind Christian. And they can lie. Christians are the liars in the world. They lie. Because if you should believe in what the Bible says, I don't think you will even call yourself Christian. Because Christians are against the Bible. You don't be frank here. Christians are against the Bible. They don't preach according to the Bible. They read one scripture and then they use that one scripture for a whole sermon. But that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says one scripture cannot be used for a whole sermon. One scripture cannot be used to explain. You misinterpreted the Bible because the Bible scriptures are quoted from other scripture, and that is why Isaiah said, in order to understand the Bible, in order to preach the Bible, in order to interpret the Bible, in order to bisect the Bible, right? It got to go precept by precept, line by line, little here, little there. Because the books are quoted from other books. The entire Bible was written for another book, talking about another book, talking about another conversation. That is why it always says it is written, which means it is quoted from the Old Testament. So real believer of the Bible, they will tell you I'm not a Christian. Because in this contemporary world, right, Christians are the most deceitful people in the world. They are not going according to the Bible. They will tell you, oh, don't think about sinning. As long as you know Jesus Christ, and you know, everything will be okay. But it is the same Bible that said God hates sinner. But Christians will not be truthful to their followers because they want for their followers to stay to put more offering. Because if you start preaching, God hates sinner. Do you know how many sinners in a congregation? They will all want us. You will not get your offering, you will not get your tithe. And they need that offering, they need that tithe. They will not preach according to the Bible, according to the book. Yes, God hates sinner. But because they have more sinners in their congregation, they will not say, they'll say, no, don't worry. As long as you come into church, as long you can pray to God, as long you come and confess your sin, God will understand. God love you. But no, God said he hates sinner. And he cast. Cast, you know what I mean to cast? He cast sinner. But a Christian go to the churches then. You will see gay flag all on this board there. They're teaching. But there's a same Bible that say when two men lie down, their destruction is dead. God hate them. But Christian will say no. God love everybody. But God said he hate men and men lying down. And in fact, God said that which pertain to a woman, a man should not wear it. That which pertain to a man, a woman should not wear it. But a Christian will tell you, God came and changed the law. That was olden day time. Don't think about it. We live in a different time. But then the same Christian will tell you, God's word does not change. God's word is constant. If God's word is constant, then why you say, you tell your congregation, don't think about it. It was those days. You know, during that time, those people lived different. And at what time we live different. But then the same pastor will tell you, God's word is constant and never change. Christian, they are the most deceitful and liars preacher in the world. There's a revolutionary persuasion educational lecture series. We teach. Now, you saw in the video what Louis Farrakhan said. Look, that means, right, no matter what you do, if you see a black man in a higher position, especially, we're not talking about a black organization, a black entity. We are talking about if you see a black person in a Western organization, in a white organization, do not ever think or dream that they are there to represent you. You heard Louis Farrakhan. Even though Obama was the president as a black man, but don't forget, that horse is the White House. They didn't say black horse. That horse is what? White horse. So white agenda must be prevailed. That's what he said. There was a black man in the White House. There was a black man being a president, but don't forget, it is a White House. So he was never there to carry on black agenda or to fulfill black agenda, but he was there to fulfill white agenda. That is why when time came, they sent him to Africa. The Negro, they sent a slave because he was working on a plantation. Just because he was a black man being a president, he was not a president. He was just on a plantation. When they got ready, let's send him to go and preach about gay rights. When we have many issues on the African continent. When Africans are being violated by the same US, Africans are being violated by the same Europe, but they left it. They want to preach gay rights on the African continent. They want to carry their agenda on the African continent. When Africans are on the African continent, no food, starvation, poverty, not quality education. No, you do not deserve those things. What you deserve is for another man to come and look in your box. That's what you deserve. And that's what I will always give. And the truth here is, anything from Europe to Africa is not good for us. Oh, you want me to go into it? Why they say they want to give you seat on the United Nations at this time now? Because they have recognized that getting a seat on the United Nations is useless. So they don't mind, okay, we will give it to them. But at the end of the day, who made that decision? That means Obama being a president for the United States as a black man was still useless because they cooked the cake, not Obama. So in that example, having a black man or having Africa having a seat on the United Nations is meaningless, is useless, is nothing. And will be as Obama was a United States president in the White House, but carry on nothing as it relates to black agenda, but carry on the agenda of the white man. That would be the same thing as Africa having a seat in the United Nations, but does not have veto power. Now you see why it is useless. The UN is useless when it comes to Africa. That is why we need to get away with it. Now, let's get to my video. You see, this is David Lammy, a black man, a Negro, a horse Negro, a slave who entered the British Parliament in 2000, to be precise, June 2000, along with Tony Blair, when Tony Blair was there at that time. And because he was working as a slave, the slave master trusted him because he carried on the duty. He was being productive. He was being productive because what the slave master wanted or what they want, that's why David Lammy produced. So he's been productive. At the end of the day, the slave master wants to see the slave being productive. And that is David Lammy. Matter of fact, let me put it here because I want you guys to see more comments. Let me put it on my phone just because of the comment. Let me put it on my phone here. I want to get it on my phone. Let me see here. Let me go to my email. Hold on with me, folks. Hold on with me. Hold on. I'm coming. Hold on. Let me put it out here. so I can read some comments to you about certain thing here. Hold on. Bear with me.
Life moves fast, but each new day brings promise and potential. You've worked hard for what you have.
Russia sits on...
Very good. I have it. So now, David Lammy here, he is the current UK Foreign Secretary General or so of the UK. And he got this position in July of 2024. And you know, the slave masters are always ahead of their thing. Like Nkrumah said, you cannot sleep. We Africans should not sleep on the slave master, on the West, on the colonialists, on the enslaver, because these people are never asleep when it comes to us. These people's survival relies on our circumstances. So if their survival relies on our circumstances and our demise, that means we cannot be asleep. Because these people wanted a black voice on the upcoming United Nations Summit, to whom they will tell you what to say to justify certain things. Because if the white man go and sit and say what he said, the world will react to it differently. Or Africans will react to it differently. So they have to use a black man to go and say it. But guess what? It is the bourgeoisie Africans who will not react to it. So this man went on the United Nations and sat down there and compared the torturing, the dehumanization, the killing of African by the US, of African by Europe, compare it to Ukraine war. I dare you, David Lammy, to do that. Have you seen why couldn't the white man or the Jewish go to the United Nations and compare their so-called Holocaust of what Adolf Hitler did to them, to compare it with the issue of Ukraine? David Lammy, we ask you a question. Why couldn't the white man or the Jewish go to the United Nations and compare what Adolf Hitler did to them to that of the issue of Ukraine? Why they couldn't do it? It is always the black man who will look down on the black man. It is always the black man who will be the cause for another black man to go down the drain. Remember, we see that in Burkina Faso with Emperor Touare. It is the black man that is being used to go against this man. But it's just because this man is so sophisticated in all ways ahead of time. If not, this man could have been gunned down by another stupid African to kill the dream of the AES nations. The black men. The black men.
Russia sits on this council, but its actions tear up the UN Charter. Russia sits on this council, but over the weekend, we saw it put forward amendments designed to wreck the UN's future. Russia claims to stand for the global south, but it runs roughshod over international law. Vladimir Putin, when you fire missiles into Ukraine hospitals, we know who you are. When you send mercenaries into African countries, we know who you are. When you murder opponents in European cities, we know who you are. Your invasion is
So did you see that, right? The white man could not have gone to the United Nations and tell Putin, when you send people overseas, we see you. When you invade our country, we see you. You know, America will not go to the United Nations and say that to Putin. Now, this is not in defense of Putin. We care less. What we discuss here is about Africans and African interests. We don't care about the West, their conflict, whatsoever. We do not care. We care about the people who do not have the power at this time to fight at this time. Because we know in the near future they will get the power. But guess what? When they have that power, they will never misuse their power like how the United States, the UK, the Israel, they are using their power to destabilize and kill other people. And then defend it. You see, there's idiot, there's horse Negro. Southern here, he talked about the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. But he never mentioned the invasion of Libya by the United States. He never mentioned the invasion of Libya by Obama. Not only that, this horse Negro, he said, Russia is invading Ukraine. Russia is destroying Ukraine. Russia is doing this. But this horse Negro never talked about the thing Israel is doing in Palestine and Gaza. So what Palestine is doing in Israel and Gaza, or Israel is doing in Palestine and Gaza is justifiable. It's right. That is not invasion. That is not nothing. It is right. Because the white man could not have gone to say this over there. The black man always want to be on a plantation once he's get the power in white entity. David Lammy, what did you say recently when the protest was in UK and African were being gunned down, African were being killed and chased? We never saw you. Maybe you did, but we never saw you. But here you are, defending something that you're not supposed to defend. Did you talk about the U.S. when the U.S. said they supported the Arab Spring against Gaddafi? And then Obama came and confessed and said they should not have been there. It was the greatest mistake in his presidency. Did you condemn Obama? Did you condemn the U.S. as a black man? There's a reason why I'm asking him this question. If not, I have nothing, in fact, to bring this video out. But let's see the reason why I'm asking him this question.
in your own interests, yours alone, to expand your mafia state into a mafia empire, an empire built on corruption, robbing from the Russian people as well as Ukraine, an empire built on crushing dissent, courageous opponents like Navalny, an empire built on lies, spreading disinformation at home and abroad to sow.
Again, he's talking about spreading disinformation. He's talking about Russia is spreading, doing this to build her empire. If we want to, like I said, we're going to get to the main point, what I want to address. But the issue here is what baffles some of us as a black man. As a black man, had there been a white man sitting here doing this, I would never show this here. But as a black man sitting here, who have created lies to build an empire? The U.S. When you talk about propaganda, the U.S. who have invested $1.5 million in propaganda in 2005 to up to date. Even more than that, just in 2005, they spent $1.5 billion in propaganda in 2005. So imagine from 2005 to 2024, how many billion dollars the US have invested in propaganda. UK have invested in propaganda. I'm not talking about Russia, but against Africa. Have you, David Lammy, come out to condemn them? As a black man. Oh, but you are doing it to defend your slave master. But the thing your slave master are doing on the African continent, in African nations, is more than what you just named it down there. Because your people are still in captivity with the heads of the US and EU. What are you doing? But we understand you are working for your slave master as a slave. What did he do? When the Ukrainian, they say Ukraine, you defending. When the Ukrainian general military confess and say the Ukrainian army fought alongside the terrorists in Mali that killed Malian soldiers. Did you comment? Did you come out to say anything to condemn Ukraine? Why didn't you condemn Ukraine in this your statement? Because they confess. In fact, the ambassador to Senegal, the Ukrainian ambassador in Senegal, testified that it was true. Ukrainian army fought alongside the terrorists against the Malian, the Malian citizens. Did you talk about that? What the Ukrainians are doing in Africa as a black man?
Disorder. Mr. President, I speak not only as a Briton, as a Londoner, and as a foreign secretary, but I say to the Russian representative on his phone as I speak, that I stand here also as a black man whose ancestors were taken in chains from Africa at the barrel of a gun to be enslaved, whose ancestors rose up and fought in a great rebellion of the enslaved. Imperialism, I know it when I see it, and I will call it out for what it is. In this week,
did you see what he said right, or what he says right there? Have you seen the Jewish, have you seen the white man come out to compare anything that they went through with after Hitler? I dare you, do you know how many millions of Africans that just died on the sea that did not make it to the so-called New World? Do you know how many millions of Africans that died to various, or how they call it, port, or to various dungeon? Even in Africa, before the slave came from them. But when they put them in a dungeon, do you know how many Africans have died? Humiliated in those dungeons. I'm not even talking about those that got on a ship. Do you know how many millions Africans died? And then those that got on a ship, David Lammy, do you know how many millions Africans died? Not only that, they were raped by the white man, your slave master. Not only that, when they reach here, those that couldn't make it, that couldn't survive the climatic condition, do you know how many millions of them died? And not only that, do you know how many millions of them die on a plantation as well? Not only that, do you know how many millions of them die by being lynched? And you're talking about imperialism. Oh, very good. So you understand what imperialism is. Do you know what Africans go through on a daily basis? Have you ever told the US or UK that what they are doing in Burkina Faso is imperialism? Have you ever told the US or UK that sanctions being put on African nations when African nations say no to them? Did you say to them that imperialism? Oh, you understand. I'm glad your slave master understand what imperialism is. Do you want to compare the issue in Ukraine with imperialism? No way, it cannot be. David Lammy. What is going on in Ukraine? It is ethnic conflict. What is going on in Ukraine? It is ethnic conflict. It's not imperialism. What is going on in Ukraine? It is misunderstanding between the people in our era. It is not imperialism. Do not compare the suffering that black people went through in the hands of Europe and America, your slave master, to that of an ethnic conflict going on there. First of all, Putin wanted peace long time. It is your slave master. You are aware of your slave master against peace and security in Ukraine. You are aware. You are aware of your slave master influence in Ukraine. They are against peace. You are aware, David Lammy. You are aware. You are aware how many billions of pounds UK has spent. You are aware how many billions of dollars the US has spent in Ukraine. You are aware when Putin spoke to the African leaders and said, I call for peace, and Putin gave his copy of the peace agreement to the African leaders. You are aware. You are aware when Putin met Zelensky to talk about peace, and the next day, Boris Johnson, your former prime minister, came and said there will be no peace agreement. You are aware. So what is going on in Ukraine? It is ethnic conflict. Because somebody want to be on the side of the West. Somebody want to be puppet, and the other person said, you will not be puppet to come and destabilize our region, to bring foreign military here. Somebody want to be puppet. And another person said, you cannot be puppet. If you want to be puppet, you should be puppet not to me and not to America and England. You are aware of that. And you want to use black people suffering. Now, say you understand imperialism. Have you ever talked about reparation? Black people been fighting for reparation. David Lammy, you are a higher position. You are a member of parliament in Tottenham. You are a member of parliament in Tottenham since 2000, June. And you became the UK Secretary General or Foreign Secretary in 2024, to be precise, July. So you've been in government since 2000. Have you ever worked alongside with black people about reparation? For UK to pay for their crime, for US to pay for their crime. So you understand what imperialism is. Because what is going on in Russia and Ukraine is nothing compared to imperialism. Nothing compared to imperialism. Nothing compared to colonization. How dare you use black struggle to justify white thing, because you want for white thing to be prevailed, because you are put in a seat according to your slave master. Who cares if your parents were immigrants? Who cares if your parents were taking slave this, that? But do you honor your parents? And you should do that. Your parents were taken through change and rape and humiliated. You will use it to fight for black interests, not to use it to fight for white interests, you slave. How dare you do that? Have you seen where people use their struggle to fight for black issue? Have you seen the Jews use their struggle? All the way to understand what Arthur Hitler did to them. But these people justify what they did to Africans. How dare you use African struggle, what they went through, to try to justify white interests? Look at them sitting there behind you there. And they were so happy. And these are some of the comments. Look at some of the comment here. And I commented there. When I comment, I put my comment there. all the comment that I saw, the other person said, so great speech. We can't give up to support Ukraine as long as needed. Hope Trump hear this speech. And then another person said, I am not Labour fan, but that was an excellent speech by David Lammy. But Britain can be proud of what? Yes, we understand. The white man can be proud of, the slave master can be proud of his slave. Yes, it's true. The slave master can be proud of his slave on a plantation. I know he went home that day. They decided, for him to sit on the table to eat. They decided that day, we will not put chain on your hand. They decided that day, we will not put chain on your foot. Come and sit with us and eat. Yes, that day there was no chain on his foot that day. They did not chain him that day. They did not put him in a closet that day. They did not put him to the back that day after their speech. Another person said, fire in the speech. Goosebump on my skin. Very well said. But these are the same people. If a black man speak about this for black agenda, these are the same people who are commenting here will say, if you don't like it, go back to Africa. Do you see how the United Nations was split? Do you see how the United Nations is useless? Because white people were there fighting for white agenda. America, Asia, UK, they were there fighting for their interests, while Russia, the Middle East, was there. African nations went there to beg for catch and to beg for non-permanent seat. Oh my God. Uselessness. What? US, UK, Israel, they went with one voice. Russia, China, the Middle East, they went with one side. In the United Nations, do you see how it's split? And then Africa, an entire continent that represents 1.5 plus billion people, do not have permanent seat, but went there to beg. What other people were talking about their position, their power, what they like, what they don't like. All people should start influencing the affair or agenda. No, African went there to beg. There's this speech, if it is being spoken in favor of a black man or black people or black agenda, I can tell you, if you allow Dr. Umar, there's this speech not to even paraphrase it. Don't, like, he shouldn't even paraphrase it. If Dr. Umar gave the same speech about the involvement of US, the involvement of EU in other nation or in black nation, I can tell you, on that comment page, you will see nasty comment. Go back to Africa. You not like it here? Go back. You have the opportunity here. So why are you saying that? Why are you speaking against US? Why are you speaking against or UK or EU? Go back to where you come. Then go back to Africa. But do you see every speech here? I mean, every comment here. Good. Good. And then the other person said, the speech of the UK foreign minister is excellently communicable and respectful. Another person said, what a powerful speech. It was truly heartfelt and sincere. Wow. Another person said, great speech for a very serious matter. Oh, wow. The other person said, he is so right. Very good speech. Wow. The other person said, the man was spot on in everything he said and deliver with extreme clarity. Oh, but when a white man speak, I mean, when a black man speak like the way this black man spoke for white people, if the black man speak like that in a same manner for black people, black interests, they will say he's too loud, he's too arrogant, he's too ghetto. Wow. The man was spot on in everything he said and delivered with extreme clarity. This kind of cutting through the nose is extremely what we need this day. Wow, we need it this day. But when a white man, I mean, when a black man do the same thing, no, we don't need it. Speak softly. He's too harsh. He's too loud. He's too ghetto. Wow. But you can use the same ghetto man to speak like this for white people. Then you need it in this time. It's clear. It's far. It's good. Wow. The other person said, I don't support labor, but that was a great speech. Well done. Yes. Clap for the slave. Because he did great for his slave master. Clap for him. Well done. Negro David Lammy, well done. The other person said, I never thought I would agree with David Lammy, but he hit the nail on the head with this speech. Good on him. Just hope he continue to fight. Wow. Hope he continue to fight. But if black people fight for what is right for them, they sell out there in the court, they sell out there on the street, they dare they go to Africa, they blacklist them. Wow. What a peaceful world we live in. What an equality world we live in. Wow. What a global society we live in. Wow. What a peaceful and a fair society or world we live in. Wow. But this was my only comment. I'm going to read my comment too. At least my comment, I have one like. And I know that person that like me, we think the same. At least. This is my comment. I said, another slave speaking. How can Russia be an imperialist? How? How can Russia be an imperialist? Because he compared the struggle of black people to that of the ethnic conflict in Russia and Ukraine. Because Russia and Ukraine, they speak the same language. They are the same people. How can Russia be an imperialist who enslaved your forefather? So I'm asking David Lamina, who enslaved your forefather? Africans? Who enslaved your forefather or Africans? It was the same UK, Europe, US that enslaved them. It was not Russia. So Russia, by definition of what happened to African people, like you said, your forefather, you are descendant of your forefather that was taken from Africa, that were enslaved, right? But that definition, Russia cannot be imperialist. But definition of what you said, after the same people that took your forefather into captivity, when it was done, when after their kingdom was built, they went back to the womb of your forefather, they colonized, and not only that, they castrated, they destroyed, they raped. Look at our Congo. Do you know the history of what your slave master did in a part? They do your history well. So, by what you said and by definition of our perspective, of our reasoning, of our struggle, Russia cannot be an imperialist. We're not speaking for Russia, but we are speaking based on what you said over there. Russia cannot be an imperialist. Your slave master nation, not the imperialist. Because it was the same UK that enslaved Africans, that colonized the African continent. It was the same Europe that enslaved African and colonized the African continent. It was the same US that enslaved Africans and colonized the African continent. So they are the imperialists. Now, If you don't understand what imperialist is, don't say it. Come to us. We will educate you. And I think you don't know. Because if you knew, you could not have said Russia is an imperialist. Try to compare the struggle, the issue, the dehumanization faced, African faced by the US and UK to justify because you want to please your slave master, you horse Negro. I went as far as saying it was not Russia that enslaved African. So how can you use that on Russia? It was Russia who fought alongside with Africans to defeat imperialist US and Europe. Let's continue with what he said here. Let's continue with his speech.
When I'm here talking to other partners around the world about our shared futures and the future of the UN, Russia is trying to return us to a world of the past, a world of imperialism, a world of redrawing borders by force, a world without the UN Charter. We cannot allow this to happen. Ukraine's fight matters to all of us. The UK will remain Ukraine's staunchest supporter because, Mr. President, these are the stakes. If we let an imperialist redraw borders by force, those will not be the last borders to be redrawn. If we let
All right, I'll take it out because he's a horse Negro. See what he said. If we allow the Russia redraw border, you know, like I said, I am reacting to what he said, right? I don't really care about what he said about Russia. I don't really care. I'm reacting because what he's speaking against, it is what exactly his slave master do, and which he know about it as a slave. But at the end of the day, it is the African leaders we will blame. It is Nana Akufo-Addo we will blame. It is Tinubu we will blame. Macky Sall we will blame. Al-Assad we will blame. Because these are the same people who are going against African leaders who are fighting tirelessly for the African continent, for their people. It was these people who wanted to go wage war on another African nation. So it is the African leaders, me, I will blame. Because these people are fighting for their right. And look, let me say this. Anything the US do, she's right. Amen. Look, anything the US do, the US is right. She's fighting for herself. She's fighting for her survival. Anything UK do, UK is right. UK is fighting for survival. So if the UK can use a black man and a black man go and fight for UK is right. If the US can use a black man to fight for the US interest on the demise of other people, yes, she's right. The question is, what are Africans doing? What are African leaders doing? Oh no. They went to the UN. They did not go with one voice. They went with different voice, different agenda. Up to now, let me tell you what is going on now. These so-called stupid, some of the African leaders, these so-called Negro horse leader, they are now fighting among themselves who to have non-permanent seat on a stupid, racist, useless, meaningless United Nations. They are not there fighting among. Look, a position that is useless, a position that have no meaning, no power, a position that have no significance, a position that have no weight, a position that will never do anything for Africa. African leaders are now there. 40 and one upset. Which nation, oh Lord, which nation to be on the United Nations as a non-permanent member? As a non-permanent member. You are not a member in the first place. If you are not permanent, you are not a member. Why do you want that position? Why do you want it? Why do you want that position? Get out. Get out. Get out. And by getting out, tell the US, bye. Tell Europe, bye. Tell Africa, unite. Tell Abraham to worry, we are coming. Salute him. Tell Abraham to worry, the AES nation, we are coming. You are right. We back you. We back you. We apologize to you that we try to betray you. We apologize to you. We try to sell you to the enemies. But we recognize that what you are doing is true, is right. Then to be fighting for a stupid, meaningless seat. As long as the US say they want to give you that seat, it's useless. Anything the West decide for Africans, that means it's useless. If they decide that, oh, go this way, it's not a good road to take. The same way, if the US say, oh, this African leader is good, this person is good for you, that person is not good. Any position made by the US or Europe for Africa is the bad position. Don't go for it. Take the other route. Get out of the UN. Because the truth is, what you don't know is, you hold that UN. That UN survive on Africa. That is why they don't want to give you power. Because if they give you power, the United Nations shift to the African continent. We said it last week. I'm not going there again. So these people, they don't have Africans' interest. They never will. They didn't do, they will never do. And they will never will. It is what it is. And they know what we are saying, it is true. But they are against us because we are saying it true. We are exposing them. But they know what we say here, it is true. Let's take a 1 minute break with this video.
Who are these people? And then when you ask students at all the universities, I did this at Harvard, I've done it at Yale, do this, name me 5 African ethnic groups that were brought to America. And they could hardly name one. And then if you ask, name me 5 European ethnic groups that came to America, they could name 35. Why is that? How could that be? I could tell you right off, the immigrants that came from Europe, Italian, Polish, English, French, German, Norwegian. But if I ask that question about Africans, I say, well, where do these people come from? And rarely do you get people who are able to say Wolof, Mandinka, Yoruba, Igbo, Asante, Fante, Ga, Ewe. That's who Africans in the diaspora are. But even Africans do not know that. So what's the problem? There were more than 100 different African nations that were brought to this country.
Okay, folks. The next thing to talk about, like I said, this is WCC. This is the Revolutionary Persuasion Educational Lecture Series aspect of WCC. We don't sugarcoat anything. Even as much as we are hatched on the West, on US to be specific, on Europe to be specific, it is the same way we're going to be hatched on any African. We don't care. We're not sugarcoating here. It is the same way we're going to be hatched on the same African. Because we are tired. And when I say we are tired, I'm not saying we are tired doing this. We are just tired with the betrayal. We are just tired with the bullshit. Yes, I say it today. Instead of saying BS, we are just tired of it now. Up to this time, we still have Africans. You know, the same way doing slavery, right? How some Africans betray their brothers and sisters to the white men to be taken to Europe and America. It is the same way today we still have Africans who are sending their brothers and sisters in danger. Today, it is the same way we still have Africans on the African continent knowingly who are taking money, who are taking bribe to sell their brothers and sisters to the white man. It was the same way during enslavement time. White people kidnap Africans, yes. But at the same time, Africans were also there who knew what was going on because the white men have educated them. Partook in the issue our forefathers went through, our people went through. There were Africans who were also on the side of the white men. In 2024, we still have Africans who are still doing the same nonsense. In Ghana, to be specific, and I know it's going on in other African countries. And we spoke about this a few weeks ago, that UK recruiting, the West are recruiting people. So we have people in Ghana knowingly what is about to happen, recruiting people and sending them to Russia to go fight. But they told them, we're sending you to Russia to go work. But before I get into that, let me say this. Some of these things are happening again because of the lack of leadership on the African continent. It's like someone drowning in the water and they see a piece of stick with fire blazing on it. They will never mind if fire is on it or if they hold that stick, they're going to get burned. They prefer holding that stick, at least they are holding onto something until they can see safety. Some of these Africans, because how will you fall for that knowingly? Russia is in a war. Ukraine is in a war. And if someone tell you, there's a job opening in Russia, there's a job opening in Ukraine. When you go there, you're going to work to support your people back home. And you agree. Is that someone telling you there's a job in Lebanon? Yes, in Lebanon, because, Israel have extended their bombing. There's a job in Lebanon. There's a job in Palestine. There's a job in Gaza. Which will take you there so that you can work to support your people back home, and you agree. Let's watch this video, folks. And I suggest, I recommend the Ghanaian government should have these people arrested, or these men arrested, should investigate, and everyone involved in this should be arrested. Let's see something here. So we have this Ghanaian brother in Ghana recruiting Ghanaian, lying to them that when they go to Russia, there's a job opening for them. And then they got in Russia, no job, no training, no military training, and then they took them on a war front to go fight. Slavery. And then while they're getting the money, and then their brothers and sisters are being sent. Because these people too, they're so dumb and stupid. What kind of job in Russia when Russia is fighting war? What kind of job in Ukraine when Ukraine is fighting war? And can you think? We know the hardship in Africa. We know the situation. But can you think for once? Poverty made you not to think again? Suffering made you not to think again? Let's see here.
That came to Russia. A man brought us here. We were 20 in numbers that came to Russia. A man brought us here. His name is Ibrahim Boache, popularly known as One Man Supporter. He brought us here. He told us that there is a security job and then farming agricultural job in Russia, which will be paying a lot. So if you are interested, we should come. And he said, we asked him more about the security work, and then he said that the security work is like maybe when you go to a bank, you see a security sitting in front or standing in front of the bank. When you go to an office, you see a security man there in front of a house, maybe a rich man's house or a rich woman's house. You see a security guard over there. That was the security he told us about. But then the military in Russia will train us for 2 to 3 months. So we agreed, and then we paid our plane ticket, and then this office, and we came. They brought us to Russia, and then our first place was in Kostroma. There is a state in Russia called Kostroma. That was where we were. And then this military people came, and then they brought a contract. They brought a contract for us to sign, and then we called this man. He wasn't around at that time. He was in Moscow. We called him and told him that the military people have brought a contract for us to sign. And then we want him to be here to witness it before we will sign it. And then he told us that, oh, don't worry. It's the training that you are going to do. It's the military people that will train you. So that's the contract they brought for you guys to sign. So we should sign. Nothing bad is going to happen. So he brought us here. So we trusted him. And then we signed it. And we signed it not knowing it was a contract that is going to be sending us to the front line. When I see the front line, the war zone, the fight between Russia and Ukraine, that was the contract we signed, and we didn't know. The contract, the language was in Russian language, but then this one told us the military people were in training. So that was what we thought. We didn't know it was a contract taking us to the war front. And then he said that the military people would train us. So the military people came to take us, and we went to Rostov. It's another state in Russia. When we got there, now the military people told us that we are going to train for only 21 days. So after we called this one and told him that this is what is going on. So this man was like, no, we should believe him. That's not why we are here. The only trainers, and then after they'll post us to our security posters. When our pay came, he said that we should give him percentage of his money. And before we all agreed in Ghana that each month our salary counts, we'll give him 25%. So he came with his friend agents, and then we gave him 130,000 rebels. When our salary came, it was 400,000 rebels. When they came to take 130,000 rebels, when he came, we were still complaining to him that where we are, we don't like it because this is what these people are saying. We don't like it, so you take us back to Ghana. He was still saying today, tomorrow, and then now, as I'm talking to you, we are in Donetsk right now. And if you should know Ukraine very well, you will know that Donetsk is part of Ukraine. And now, out of the 20, 4 people didn't sign because they said they are waiting for 1 month to be there before they will sign it. So they didn't sign. And then the 16 of us signed. And then the 16 of us that signed, 2 people didn't fill, and 2 people didn't pass the medicals. 2 people didn't pass the medicals. So it was left with 14. So they brought us 14 over here. And now, as I'm talking to you, out of the 14, they've taken 7 to the front line. And then out of the 7, 4 are seriously wounded and being admitted at hospital. So yeah, here we are. Please kindly come and help us and remove us from here. We want to go back to our country.
Wells Fargo has donated $60 million to advance homeownership in under
that I cannot go furthermore, or else drone, I will be crushed by a drone.
Another day in Donetsk, Ukraine, a place that has become a living nightmare for some Ghanaian men trapped in a war they know nothing about, forced to fight for a cause they never chose.
Come to our aid and help us. As you can see, all the buildings here has been collapsed. Here is very scary. Please, come help us. We need your help.
These men who left Ghana with promises of menial jobs in Russia now find themselves on the front lines of Russia's war against Ukraine, their lives hanging by a thread with every passing moment. One of the men now deployed to the front line has shared a painful account of his deteriorating health. Unable to stand on his own, he is regularly injected with substances allegedly to gain the strength needed to continue fighting. His fear is visible as he wonders if it will all be too late.
Mistake about Panama. So maybe I'm one and one thing. What's when you see I'm in any union, I'm in so. Instead of Mamma Honia Hanamo and Benino.
He says every day he stares at the sky hoping for deliverance, yet dreading that he might become the next casualty, crushed by a rebel attack or lost to the brutality of war.
Maybe I'm warning you. The whole crown family. The night in to me crumping in a so. Because saying in a corner is what I time.
A police CID informed the families that Abraham Boachi, popularly known as One Man Supporter, had fled back to Russia after the first part of the story broke. Gideon Safo, the nephew of one of more disappointment, a police CID informed the families that Abraham Boachi, popularly known as One Man Supporter, had fled back to Russia after the first part of the story broke. Gideon Safo, the nephew of one of the trapped men, expressed deep anger.
Unfortunately, we were present that we wanted to go and meet One Man Supporter and the leaders so that we will know the truth. But unfortunately, our brother was just trying not to allow us to go and see One Man Supporter. He wanted to do it himself. In fact, we don't know what to do, and just we need help. We need the government of Ghana, their help, government Ghana help, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the military, the police headquarters. We need their help. Even if we don't arrest One Man Supporter, they should talk to the embassy so that at least they will bring people back. Once the people are back, then we can deal with One Man Supporter. For now, this.
All right. That is what's going on in Russia. That is what's going on in Ukraine. Abraham Boachi, that's his name. That's the recruiter. So when the news broke out and he saw citizens demanding his arrest, he was quick to leave the country. And now, according to story, he's in Russia. And by the way, I didn't want to show the other video, but I think they said it was about 14 to 16 Ghanaian just Ghana that left. And you know, I don't want to discourage, you know, the family. That's why I didn't show the other one. But that 14 to 16 individual that left, they are almost dead. Almost all of them, they're dead. I think 5 or 4 left. And those are the people that you heard talking. That's why I didn't show the other video. To give hope to the other family. But the truth is, when I did a research, they are dead. The few people left, those are the few people you heard talking. But the other video, you will see it clear. You know, that's why we have this channel. We spoke about this. But it seems that people that control the media, the scene west, they block our messages from going. It only reach to, it only go few. They block it. And that is why we keep saying these things. Do not leave Africa to go to fight. Especially, how will someone come and tell you there's a job in where they have war? Can't you think in Nigeria, where Boko Haram is? Do you see people going? If I tell you right now where Boko Haram is, go and find job there. Will you go there? Right now, if I tell you go to South Sudan, that there are job there, or agricultural job is there, or security, will you go to South Sudan for job? Let us be real. Can you think? Will you go to South Sudan for job? Where there is war, will you go there? Come on, man. You need to think of some of these things. How will someone come and tell you there's a job in Ukraine or there's a job in Russia, security job, and then you're going to be working to help your family back home, and you agree to it? What? Can you even think to say, listen, how can job be in Russia? How? But we are so desperate to leave the African continent. Now, I know someone may say, but friend, you're not on the African continent, that's why. Let me say this. If you don't have relatives in the West that are specifically sending for you, but you just see someone from the blood side come and say, oh, I got a job for you. There's a job, I got affidavit, or I got paper for you. There's a job here, you know, here a big good job. Why can't they go there? Why are they so interested in you to go get a job, but they can't go? First of all, ask them, have any of your family gone there? Do you have relatives here? Why can't you send your relative? If it is a genuine job, they will never come and recruit you. They will go to their relative, their immediate family, and send them. They will never go on the street to be asking for people. To be telling people there's a job here. We want you to go there and pay good money. While their relatives are there. Why would they want to lead their relative to come on the street to tell you there's a job here? Can you think? If you don't have a relative in the diaspora, you don't have a relative in the US, you don't have a relative in the UK that is directly sending for you, don't come. If someone comes to you and say, oh, there's a job opportunity in the US, don't do it. There's no job opportunity. If they have it, they will send their relative first. Anybody come to you and tell you there's a job opportunity in UK, don't do it. Because if indeed there's a true job opportunity in the US, in UK, they will never get on the street to recruit you. they will go and give that opportunity to their family. In fact, they themselves will be to the embassy to fight for that position or to fight for that paper to come. Now, I'm not saying don't travel. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't travel. But use your senses. Use your senses. We all understand how difficult it is around the world now. We understand. But use your senses. If you don't have an immediate relative to any area that is sending for you, but someone that you don't even know, you have never seen, just come to you and tell you, oh, I got a job for you. It's in the US. Don't do it. As much as you want to travel, because the point here is they may not take you to the US. The point here is they may not take you to the UK. They will be taking you to a different place. Because once you're on that plane, it's done. Once you're on that plane, it's done. But because you want to travel so badly, you will not even see the passport to know where you're going. They're going to do the passport, fix everything, and tell you, oh, don't worry, the passport is everything, it fixed everything, this, that. Once you get there, then they'll get your passport. Once you get to the airport, your passport will be given to you or whatsoever. There are a lot of schemes. So that's the point I want to make here. I'm not saying don't travel, but what I'm saying here is, if you don't know someone, if you don't know the person, but random person just come and tell you, I'm recruiting people to go to the US for a job, don't do it. Or there's a job in the UK, don't do it. Don't do it. Because the matter of the fact here is, even the UK, the UK now is sending out immigrants to leave UK. As we speak, I think it is Sweden. So one of these European countries, if I'm not mistaken, they're paying $34,000 for immigrants to leave. They do not want immigrant that have paper. They're even giving them 34 to leave the country. So be vigilant. Some of you that have in Africa that got data, try to use your data on some research. Just go on the internet and do some information and things. Before you travel, do some research. How will somebody come and tell you there's a job in Russia? And you never ask a person to give you the website or the link of the job? You never, come on. Africa, let us stop this. Even as much as we try to say, oh, this person should be arrested, but use your common sense. Don't be so desperate to just want to leave Africa. Because at the end of the day, the life you're going to live, your life in Africa is even much better. Look at what's happening now in Ukraine there with these brothers. Now they are regretting that their life was far better in Africa than what they are facing. Look at the 14 or the 16 Ghanaians are left. Not all of them are alive. Majority of them are dead. On useless war. Why are you going to fight these people who are fighting their ethnic war? The war in Ukraine, it is not a global war. It's an ethnic war. It's an ethnic conflict. But somebody somewhere just sitting down, using them. Using the other ethnic group. Making the other ethnic group to think that the other ethnic group hate the other ethnic group. Somebody sitting down somewhere, using the other ethnic group, telling them that, listen, this other ethnic group does not want your freedom, does not want your peace. Somebody sitting there somewhere telling the other ethnic group that this other ethnic group is bad, it's dangerous, they don't love you, they don't like you. So fight for your right, fight for your freedom. That's the same thing they did to Rwanda with the Tutsi and the Houthis. That's the same thing they did to Liberia. And they brought ammunition, we kill ourselves, we destroy ourselves. And then we sit down there, then we say we fought a conflict war. It was a conflict war. I mean, it was tribal war. It was Liberian this, it was Liberian that, it was tribal war. We sit down there, we agreed it was tribal war. Now new people wanted to care for us to kill ourselves. People wanted for us to destabilize the country. Now new people sat down and decided that we're going to create proxy war. That's the same thing going on in Ukraine. The same thing happening in Liberia, where people fought and supported it to destabilize the place. That's the same conflict, or how they call it, ethnic conflict war going on down there because people put them together. The same thing that went in Rwanda with the Tutsi and the Houthis, ethnic war that people formed there, is the same thing going on in Ukraine and Russia. It's an ethnic conflict. Where they lie to one person that you can do it, you are powerful, that's your right. The other people, the other ethnic group is bad, is this, they don't love you, they don't like you. That's the same thing going on. It's an ethnic conflict. And that's what the West is known of doing. And this is why African leaders need to be mindful to lead the right way for their people. Because these are some of the things people just travel. If they hear anything, they don't rationalize at all. They just get and go there because they want to provide for their family. That's why these brothers left. Because they want to provide for their family. They want to be the provider. That's why they left. Not even thinking that, how can job be in Ukraine? How can job be in Russia when these people fighting war? Not even thinking. But all their mind is, yes, let me just leave Ghana. All I want to do is to leave Africa. Once I'm in the Western world, once I'm on our side, things will be better. But that's not how it is. That's not how it is. If you don't have a relative in the West that is sending for you directly, don't come. Don't come. If you don't have a relative that is sending for you through the embassy, don't come. If somebody come to you and tell you, oh, there's a job opportunity, oh, there's a scholarship opportunity, oh, there's a this, don't do it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on. That is the message I have today. This is the VCC, which are colonization. As always, I am your host, Frank Maudba, where we are unapologetic of what we say because we speak on the obvious. And we give the obvious solutions to the obvious happening. Peace. See you all.